Okay, well, welcome everybody. And I am so excited and really honoured actually to be doing this for Oxford Brookes. I love these workshops. They're a real great way for me to give back. And we're really going to discuss today how to make 2023 your best year yet. And when I learned some of the models that I'm going to be teaching you today, it really did change the way that I approached my goals and approached my year, because you can do so many SMART goals, but I'm a real believer that unless you have the right intention and have the right mindset, it's really difficult to keep the momentum, because you can steer off, and I'm going to teach you a model that will keep you on the right track. So we're going to be looking at what we can do, and I'm going to be teaching you 5 secrets on how to unlock your potential. Now, this is a framework that I have put together myself, and it is a framework that is really special to my teachings. I use it for my corporate workshops. I use it for my clients. So I will start by introducing myself. My name is Noona Nafousi, and I am the CEO of a company called Noona. Now, Noona is a company that I have formed. I'm the founder, I'm the CEO, and I'm the executive lead coach. So lots of hats in this company. And the reason why Noona got set up is I truly believe that coaching should be available to everybody, and especially to people in the workplace, because so many of us at school are not taught how to use our brain. We're not taught how to identify our own limiting beliefs. We're not taught how to build our self-belief. We're not taught why it's so hard for us to step out of our comfort zones. And I think that my aim for Noona is really to change the face of coaching in the corporate world, and I'm also going to start doing some work with students as well on teaching them how to do interviews, because if you can learn how to manage yourself and how to manage your own emotions, you can just do so much in this world. When you can manage who you are on the inside and how you let things affect you. So I was an executive headhunter for 22 years, and I did calculate it. I must have done about 13,000 hours of one-to-one interviews. I started as a recruiter when I was 20. I'm really giving my age away here. And I was a headhunter till I was 40, till 40. So I did it for about 20 years. And then during COVID, I decided to become a coach. The best time to do it, actually, it really was, because so many people were struggling, and I decided to set up my coaching business. Now, the thing that I learned when I was a coach, when I was a headhunter, is that I would interview at least 10 people a day for different jobs. And it wasn't always the people who were the most qualified who got the job. It was the people who had the most self-belief. And I started becoming really obsessed, because people would walk in for an interview and there was something about them. There was something really magnetic about the person who walked in, and I just knew that they would get the job. And they generally did. And so I started becoming really obsessed on what is it that makes one person get the job and not, even though they both have similar levels. And so I became really obsessed with human behavior. And I now do see myself as somebody who's an expert in human behavior, because I have studied it so thoroughly that I'm going to be sharing some of my secrets here today. So if you are looking to make 2023 the best year for you yet, you are in the right place. So much of what I'm going to teach today is going to be about how to build yourself up from the inside, how to motivate yourself, how to keep yourself inspired even when you're not inspired. And yes, this has to do with mind skills, but there's mindset, but there's so much more than this. There's so much more than being positive and be having success. And I'm going to really teach you some amazing secrets today. Now, I promise that you are going to walk away from here feeling really, really empowered. And you are going to have such a clear idea of what is it that's going to allow you to have more success and contentment, and how are you going to fulfill your goals through the steps that I'm going to teach. So what I ask from you is just to have a really open mind, and at the end of this workshop, really commit to taking some action from what we're going to go through, and really make a promise to yourself. Now, this may be a free workshop, but it is by no means the value of this workshop. I present the model that I'm teaching you here is a model that I teach in corporates. It's the model that I teach with CEOs. I present this in my leadership workshops. I get paid very handsomely for presenting this workshop, that it might be free, but the value that you're going to get today is no different than if I was going to be presenting for a very large corporation, or if I was working with an executive coach or executive in one of my executive coaching. So really do take on what I'm saying to you. Now, one of the biggest reasons why we don't achieve our goals is because of fear. It's fear that we might disappoint ourselves. It's fear that we may be judged. It's actually fear. It's not just fear of failure. But one of the things that I've realized is, as humans, we really have fear of success as well. And what I'm going to teach here today is really going to break down all these parts of fear and really build you up so that you know exactly what steps you need to take. So I'm going to be sharing with you my own framework that I have put together. So the framework that I have put together is, I'm going to teach you how to step into your power. And power comes from within. I really, really do believe that. And we can really shy away as humans of stepping into our power because we don't want to come across as arrogant. We don't want to come across as that we think we're better than someone else. We want to be humble. Let's play it small. Let's not put ourselves, really out there. And one of the things that I have found, and this is through my interviewing days and through me now working as a corporate coach and working with senior executives, is that when we are able to step into our own inner power of who we are, what our thoughts are, how we show up, we can reach the goals that we want and beyond. And when you can learn how to keep your inner power up, you not only become a better employee, entrepreneur, you become a better father, husband, partner, wife, mother. In every area of your life, you get to really show up for yourself first and then for others. So who is ready to hear the 5 steps? Just drop me a me in the chat and let me know that everyone is still awake and still feeling really excited about what's to come. Perfect. Thank you so much. Everyone that's participating, this is brilliant. Okay, now, the first thing that we want to talk about is personal power and circumstantial power. And I can't see your chat here for some reason. It's personal power and circumstantial power. And it's taken me years to really understand the difference of this. So I'm going to really spend some time explaining this to you because this is really, really important in getting to your goals and keeping your goals and exceeding your goals. So let's start. I'm going to start with circumstantial power. Now, circumstantial power is when you can gain power from your circumstances. So this might sound really simple, and I'm going to explain this to you like this. Have you ever met anyone who has a really good job, earns really good money, has a really good relationship, has so much going for them, and is still really down and still allow things to get to them? That is someone who is not in their circumstantial power. And the reason why this is so important is because if you can't take strength from what is around you, then you're not going to be able to keep building on that. And this goes further than being in gratitude. It is essential for growth and to get your goals to be in gratitude for one you have. And the way one of my mentors describe it is saying 1 foot in desire and 1 foot in gratitude. So 1 foot in like, I'm so grateful for what I have, but I desire more. And that desire are your goals. I want more. And when you walk with 1 foot in desire and 1 foot in 1 foot in gratitude and 1 foot in desire, you are able to produce more and make more. Because the thing about circumstantial power, it's the foundation that's going to help you live. You just have to take one look at Hollywood stars who drink too much, keep breaking up in relationships every 5 minutes, and they just don't seem very happy. So being able to take power from your circumstances is really, really important for your goals. Now, when you know that you're in, I'm going to explain when you know when you're in it and when you're not in it. And this is the best way to explain it. Imagine you had a job and you worked really hard to get this role and you really loved it. And you wanted to find another job. Now, one thing when I was a recruiter and a headhunter, I used to say to people, the worst time to look for another job is when you hate the one you're in. And I even get senior executives who come to me now, like, I just hate the job that I'm in. That is the worst time to look for a job, because you're looking at it from the point of view that you're running away from something. Now, when you're running away from something, you're going to take the first thing that's available rather than taking the next amazing thing that you want. So when you are not in your circumstantial power, you tend to go for things that you may not really want. You tend to go for things that don't completely make sense. It's like taking another job just to get out of this job, rather than taking another opportunity because it's the right opportunity for your career. It's the right opportunity for you. So when you're not in your circumstantial power, you're giving up the opportunity to get what you really, really want. And you go from your desire, you're coming away at it rather than going forward to it. Does that make sense to everyone? Now, when you are in your circumstantial power, again, let me use an example of a job. If you want to move away from a job, the best way to look for a new job is start appreciating the job you have. Doesn't mean you have to stay, but it means build the inner strength and change the mindset that you have to appreciate the job that you have right now. Stop running away from it. Know that you want to change and you want to move forward, but do it from a place of, this job has served its purpose. I'm so grateful for this job. It's given me what I need. It pays the bill. It's propelled my career. I've learned so much. Because when you are in that position and you can take strength from your current circumstances and you want to move forward, a new goal, you're much more likely to get something better than something that is just okay. It's the same as people who just break up in a relationship and they jump into another relationship. That's why they call it the rebound, as opposed to breaking up, getting really good and stepping into your circumstantial power, and then finding someone who's really the cherry on top for your life, then someone who is just the next best thing because you just want to be in a relationship. So before you set your goals, get really good at looking at the circumstance that you're currently in and getting power from that and being appreciative and knowing that I'm okay. No matter what, I'm okay because of what I've got right now. Now, the real powerful one, this is my favorite to talk about, is personal power. Now, personal power is where you can really dig deep, that knowing that no matter what, you're going to be okay. Personal power is when you go into work and your boss is in a really bad mood and you're able to have enough personal power to know that it's got nothing to do with you. There's something wrong with them. Personal power is when you are able to lead yourself in really, really tough times. And this is so important for goals and creating your goals and getting your goals, because if you are in your personal power, if you can lead yourself through tough times, you are unstoppable. Personal power is the person who used to come to me for an interview and they'd walk in and they'd be so magnetic. There's something about them. They had this like real belief that no matter what, they were okay. They had this trust in themselves. They had a really good relationship with them. Personal power, and so they'd had a really good relationship with them. And when they wouldn't get the job, they would be okay. Their attitude to not getting a job was like, oh, well, it wasn't meant to be. There's something better out there for me anyway. Personal power is trusting when you have no evidence that things are going to be okay. Personal power is knowing that you are in charge of your own destiny, that no matter what, even if you get it wrong, you're okay. Personal power is when, and I'm not sure if anyone's got kids here, I've got 2, 6 and 7. I have to use a lot of personal power. My kids are having tantrums. When they are mummy, 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 and they're just wanting so much from me, personal power is taking a breath and responding to them how I want to respond, as opposed to emotionally how I feel. Personal power is if I have an argument with my partner, taking a breath and responding in the way that me in my highest possible Noona person would, as opposed to me emotional and angry. Personal power is doing the best for you in that moment. It's not giving away your power to anyone. So if I was at work and my boss was in a really bad mood, or he'd put me down, or she had sent me a strong email, if I was in a mood for the rest of the day because of the email that she had sent me, I would be giving away my power to her, to him. Personal power is when you let somebody else affect you and affect your moods rather than taking it back. Personal power is this. This keyboard represents me and my moods and how I wake up in the morning and how I view the world. You've said something not nice to me and I'm in a really bad mood. I'm basically giving you the buttons to myself and saying, you can press all my buttons. Oh, you want me to be angry? You just press that one, please. Oh, you've made me angry. Personal power is when you don't blame others for the results that you have in your life. It's so powerful to be able to reach your goals when you have personal power, because you are going to have moments where you're going to feel weak. You are going to have moments where people are going to say things that are going to upset you. This isn't for you to be perfect. This is for you to realize you have the power to control how you feel. And I say this to my son, like, Mummy, you made me sad. I'm like, nobody can make you sad. Maybe they're a bit too young to understand that. But I do, from this age, try and teach my children, like, you're managing your own mind. I can't make you sad. You're choosing to be sad. And that is personal power. And the more that you can kind of get into your personal power and harness it and really, really understand when you're in your personal power and when you're not, and bring yourself back quickly when you're not, the more you are going to live a life where you're much more likely to achieve your goals. Because you'll understand that you are the creator. You are the one who makes things come true for you. And it's so liberating to know that no one else can take your power away. And it can feel a bit daunting in the beginning. It can feel like, but they said something to upset me and I really want to have a go at them. But I remember it's my decision whether I choose to stay annoyed for the rest of the day, even when they're not around. Am I going to let them take my power away from me? And 9 times out of 10, it's no, I'm not. The personal power, I cannot stress enough, is so important for you to achieve your goals. So have a look over the next week, over the next month, over the next year. Where are you giving your power away? Are you giving your power away to your partner? Are you giving your power away to your children? Are you giving your power away to your parents, to your family, to your friends, to your boss, to your job, to how much money you earn? Where are you giving your power away? And take it back. Because the minute you take it back is when you can start really changing things. Now, when you are in your personal power, you are much more likely to overcome fears. Now, I have a course called Fearless Failure, and it's a really beautiful course. And I've created my own model, which is a Fearless Failure quadrant. And I can't go through all of them today because of time, but the greatest person that I can think of when I'm talking about fearless failure is Richard Branson. He is one of the people who just loves failure. And if you really want to achieve all the goals in your life, get really, really good at dealing with failure. Because in my eyes, failure means you tried. Failure means you took action. Failure means you did something. Failure means you stepped out your comfort zone. Failure means that you tried something new. So when you can start to change the relationship that you have with failure and start really welcoming failure into your life, because really, when you're in your personal power and you've got your circumstantial power, there is no such thing as failure. It's just that you got it wrong. And fear of failure can show up in so many different ways, and it can really stop you from achieving your goals because you might be procrastinating. If you're procrastinating, it stems from fear. If you're a perfectionist, it stems from fear. If you're just flapping around and not knowing what to do and you're not really concise with knowing the stuff you need to do, it can stem from fear. And I remember when I did my first Facebook Live, when I first started coaching, I was so scared. My hands were shaking like this. My voice was really shaking. I do still get really nervous when I speak sometimes, but if I hadn't got comfortable with getting on camera and speaking, I wouldn't have a business. And as soon as I got off, I watched it back and I had stumbled over my words. I didn't tell the story right. And actually nobody really cared. And nobody really does care when you fail. The only person who cares is you, because you're out of your personal power. So when you're setting your goals and when you're on your way to achieving it, check where you are letting the fear of failure get to you. And one of the things that I really like to say to my students is eat failure for breakfast. Really. And one of the reasons why this workshop is so popular with corporates is because when you are willing to take action, you're much more likely to eventually get it right. And so many people don't even take that one step because they're scared of the failure. And one of the things that I do in my leadership programs is teach leaders how to encourage their teams to take failure, that they celebrate failure. Oh, I made this call, but it went wrong. Great, excellent. Let's look at what happened. Like, yes, celebrate people doing really well, but also celebrate the people who tried and got it wrong. Even more, I think, because they tried, they did their best. It shows that someone's taking action. So to really have a great year for 2023, get your circumstantial power, get your personal power, get really good with fearless failure, and eat failure for breakfast. Now, worthy wants. I think worthiness and knowing that you are worthy of the goals that you want to achieve is really, really important. And the reason why I've called it worthy wants is because so many of us don't even allow ourselves to say what we want because we don't feel worthy enough of what we want. I want a bigger house. I want a bigger car. I want a better relationship. I want a different relationship. I want to live in a different country. I want to start my business. I want a different job. Some of us don't even let ourselves go there because we don't feel worthy of it. And so the first thing is to really allow yourself to know what it is that you want, like have some really deep desires that are going to get you really excited and get you jumping out of bed because you're inspired. And you can't be inspired if you don't feel worthy of what you want. If you're constantly dumbing down your dreams a little bit, that's really, really dangerous for your goals. Like, oh, I'll just take the next job that comes, when really the job that you want is abroad, or it's in a different country, or it's in a different county that you're in, or get really, really clear on what it is that you want. And if you're dumbing it down, have a look at if your worthiness is coming into it. And I don't have enough time to go through how to build your worth. You can look online. And I just want to say that even the CEOs that I coach, even the senior executives that come to me who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, they also haven't learned how to feel worthy enough of what it is that they want. And there are so many reasons why this happened. Again, for time, I can't go into this. It's something that we pick up when we're children. But that is not to say that you cannot learn how to start feeling really, really worthy. And the first thing of change is awareness. So just become really aware of whether you feel worthy or not. And if you don't, change it. Get really obsessed about feeling worthy, because you are not going to give your goals 100% effort if you don't feel worthy of achieving them. You're just going to half-heartedly go for them. So really be honest with yourself. And they can come up with things like, oh, that's asking too much. I can't possibly ask for that. Generally comes across with worthy. Generally, there's something there. So really get really familiar with your self-worth and how worthy you feel of your goals. And when you look at your goals for 2023, are you dreaming big enough? Or are you playing small because you're not in your personal power? Because you're too scared to fail? And you don't even feel worthy of that dream anyway. So really get really good at that. Now, this is a really important one, I think. to cover, because your energy is made up of the beliefs that you have about yourself, your worthiness, the thoughts that you have in your mind, and your energy levels to get your goals achieved really comes from so many different aspects of your personal power. I want to talk about ego first. And I wrote these down so I wouldn't get them wrong, because it's really important to identify how our ego stops us from achieving our goals. Now, your ego is here to protect you. Now, our brain is the most efficient organ in our body. It does not want to use that much energy. And the reason why, because you think back in the Neanderthal days, we needed to conserve all the energy in our brain so that we were alert, because we could have been attacked by a predator, or we needed to hunt, we needed to stay warm, we needed to eat. Now, we don't need any of those things anymore, but our brain hasn't evolved that much to where we are now. So our brain still wants to protect us when it thinks that we've got a threat. But our threat isn't whether we're going to get eaten by a lion. Our threat is, should I ask for a pay rise? Shall I set up my own business? Do I want to have this conversation with my partner? Am I going to achieve? That's our threat. So our brain, what does it do to protect us? It wants to stop us, because it's going to take too much energy to create this change. So how does it do that? It starts telling us that we're not good enough. We start going into like a victim mentality. We very much go into the scarcity mindset, like, oh, but there's not enough. I couldn't possibly do that. And people who are really in their ego are people who really do complain a lot, because they're not in their personal power. If you hear someone who's complaining, who's always looking at mistakes, who is putting other people down, putting their self down, is just really down on life, it's probably because their ego is just trying to protect them. Because the other side, it does take being really comfortable with failure, not allowing other people to take your power away. That's a new way of doing things. Now, we've all got a PhD in who we are today. So if we want to change that, it's going to feel uncomfortable. So our brain's going to go into fight or flight mode. Who's going to protect us? Our ego. So really watch where your ego is trying to keep you safe and trying to keep you small. It's not that your brain doesn't want you to do it. It's your brain is trying to protect you. So one of the things that I really work with companies and with my clients is to teach them to really thank the ego and know that the ego is just trying to protect you, but you're going to do it anyway. Don't try and ignore it, because that's not going to work. It's recognizing it, thanking it, taking the next steps. Now, when you're in your most highest self and you've got really high energy, it's generally when you believe there are lessons in everything. And when you can believe there are lessons in everything, especially when you're taking your goals and your goal is done, you're going to do your goal no matter what, and something goes wrong, you'll find the lesson in that rather than complaining. Like, oh, I understand. Well, maybe I did that wrong. Maybe I should tweak that. Maybe I wasn't in the right mindset. Maybe I gave my power away. Maybe I was too scared to do that. When you can find the lessons, you're much more able to kind of take action, to be in a real abundance mindset. Now, a lot of people can say things like they're too worried of asking for too much money or asking for a promotion, because what if I'm taking the promotion away from someone else? That's in scarcity. But abundance mindset is there is enough for everyone. I'm not taking away from anybody by giving myself what I want. It's also when you keep your energy as high, when you take accountability for your actions. It's exactly like when I'm interviewing, the guy who comes in and I'm like, I'm sorry you didn't get the interview. And they're like, that's okay. I'll get another job. They've got their energy level. They know their energy is high. They're not going home crying versus the person who's allowing their ego to take over. There were some people who I really didn't want to tell them that they weren't going to get the job because I could tell it's going to crush them. This always happens to me. And they would say this to me like, oh, Noona, this always happens to me. I'm never the one to get promoted. And I was thinking, well, not with that attitude. No, come on, pick yourself up. He had a great experience, but the way he was showing up, you could already tell from the way he walked in, his whole energy was like, oh, riddled with fear. Ego took him over, just couldn't get out of it. So where are your energy leaks? Where's your ego leaking into your energy? Get really good at noticing, step into your personal power, especially when you're setting your goals. Now, the last one, which is really, really important, is taking radical responsibility. And this is similar to personal power, but really taking radical responsibility for how you communicate, for how you show up, for how you are in your relationship, for how you are as an employer, how you are as a partner. And the thing about people who are in there really kind of take on radical responsibility, they know that when their emotions are really high, intelligence is low. They know that. They know that when they're really angry, this is not the good time to have a conversation. When they're really angry, this is not the time to write an email. I mean, how many of us have written a text or a WhatsApp when we're angry? It's like, delete afterwards in the morning, like, oh no, they've read it. Delete for everyone, they've already read it. We all do that. But when you can take radical responsibility for your actions and know that all the results that you get in your life are down to you, you're much more able to get to your goals. Now, and one of the things of radical responsibility is having your word worth more than the paper it's signed on. It's worth more than the contract you signed. You have an immense level of trust with yourself. So imagine if we all lived in a world where someone said they were going to do something and we all did it. How amazing would that be if we all stuck with our word? And this is where I think a lot of lack of self-care and love comes from, is when we don't honor our word to ourselves. And when I teach this in corporates, they love this, because to be able to teach a whole group of people that your word is your law, and the most important person to keep that level of trust with is yourself. So say, for example, you went on a date and it was a really great date. And at the end of the day, they said to you, oh, I'll text you and I'll invite you out for dinner. Now, they don't text you for a while. Then they invite you out for dinner and you show up and they're not there. They don't show up. Okay, and they text you again and they say, look, I'm so sorry. Something happened. I'll meet you tomorrow. And they don't show up again. Now, first of all, you're going to think there's something wrong with this person because they're a complete liar. Second of all, you're not going to like them because they haven't kept their word to you. But we do that to ourselves. We stand ourselves up. We gaslight ourselves. We tell us that we feel something and we're like, oh no, don't feel that. We promise ourselves something and then we don't do it. We say that we're going to go to the gym and then we don't. Now, when you break that level of trust with yourself, what happens is your word means nothing. And so when you say like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym in the morning, and your brain goes, no, you're not. Like, well, then what happens is you start saying yes to things to other people and you break your word with them, so you don't become a very trustworthy person. And it's a really dangerous cycle to be in when we keep breaking our word with ourselves. because we break that deep level of trust that we have with us and with other people too, but with us, with yourself, with me, with you, with your own self. You break that level of trust. And that can be really dangerous, because if you're setting goals and you don't have a level of trust with yourself, you won't even believe that you're going to do it from the offset. So make a commitment this year. One of your goals would be to never make a promise that you make to yourself. And that might mean that you make less promises. It might mean that you won't commit to going to the gym in the morning because you know that you've got to drop the kids off and you've got a morning meeting. So you'll commit to it when you know 100% that you can do it. When you are setting goals and you have a really amazing relationship with yourself, and you know that when you're going to do something, it's done, you are much more likely to achieve your goals. And it's just not a question. Fine, the timeline might change. It might take a bit longer. It might take shorter. But you know, when you say something, your word is law. And I love this. And the thing about this, it's really changed the way I say yes to things to other people. So if someone asks me to do something, if I'm 100% in, I'm in, no matter what. I'm in, because my word is law. But if I don't think I can do it, I will say, can I get back to you? Because I've got a couple of things coming up and I really want to make sure that I can do it. So even the way I accept things changes, because if I can't commit 100%, my word is law. A really beautiful relationship to have with yourself, like really increase that level of trust. I mean, again, imagine if you had a team where you all trained each other how your word is your law. If we lived in a world, I think it would really change the outcomes of so many things. So there are three main mistakes that people make when they are not in their power. And I'm going to go through these. Now, the first one, as I mentioned, is procrastinating, because if you are fearful of failure, you're not in your power, you don't feel worthy of your goals, you don't really take radical responsibility for what you do, you're not going to want to do it, so you procrastinate. And when you procrastinate, that is the worst thing to do when you want to have a really great year and have goals that you want to meet. Now, the second mistake is that they believe their own fears because they don't know or understand that the ego is trying to protect them. So they believe when their ego is trying to keep them small, and they just stay small. This is a really, really dangerous mistake to make in so many different areas of our life. Playing small is not a good look on anyone. And they blame victimhood. It's their fault, giving their power away. Here you go, here's my keyboard. You rule my life. You tell me how good things are going to be. Really get into the blame game when you're not in your ultimate power. Now, I'm just going to briefly touch on another I'm running through workshops that I do individually, but I really wanted to give you a taster of everything that I cover in my workshop. Now, I do a whole workshop on reverse engineer with my corporate clients. And the way that you can reverse engineer a goal is you work backwards. So say, for example, and this is how I'm going to teach you how to set a goal. So pick one goal at the end of this workshop, pick one goal and pick the date that you want it to be done by. So I want to be this weight by December 31st. Now, if I want to be this weight by December 31st, how much do I have to lose in 6 months? How much do I have to lose in 3 months? And make it really achievable. I was listening to this podcast by James Clear. I think he's the guy who wrote Atomic Habits. And he was saying most of us set our goals on our perfect days, like when we're our best self. Plan your goals when you're at your worst self, when you're tired, when you're exhausted. When you're tired and you're exhausted, how much can you get done? Plan it around that. and then you're much more likely to plan it. So work backwards. So this is the day that I need, this is the day that I want to be this weight. So how much do I want to weigh by this? How much do I want to weigh? How much do I want to weigh by this? Okay. So how many times do I need to go to the gym? Twice a week. Then you start planning it. So the way I love to do this is I do this for every 90 days. I plan my 90 days. How do I go? And what I do with my clients as well, you reverse engineer everything. How do you want to feel about yourself in 90 days? Okay, so if you want to feel like that, what are the thoughts that you need that are going to back you up? And I think this, okay. So what actions, when you're feeling like that, when you're thinking like that, what actions do you want to take in a week, in a month, then in a week, then in a month? So say, for example, you've got a project at work. So this is the day that I need to do a project. Okay, put that in the diary. I like to have a nice, I'm old fashioned, I like to have one like a piece of paper that I can look, and but like, this is the day this project needs to be done. So when does the marketing need to be done? That day, put that down. So I need to collect all the information. Yeah, I need to do my marketing research. That's in. Okay, so I need that done. And I just work backwards. And there may be things that I need to squeeze around, but reverse engineering your goals is such a powerful tool to take away the overwhelm, to be really clear on what you need to do. And remember, if you're in your power and your word is your law, if you want to achieve this in 90 days and you've put that on this day, you have to achieve that because you've reversed engineer everything and you do it, how much more likely is it going to be that you're going to achieve your goal? So much more likely. The reverse engineer is a really beautiful model to do. So thank you so much. I'm going to leave, I'm going to leave 10 minutes for Q&A. So you can go into the Q&A box and drop any questions. I've tried to put as much as I can. So I'd love to know how you're feeling now at the end of the workshop. If you want to get in touch with me, please reach out to Noona. There's so much on there that you can, if you want to sign up for my weekly emails as well, I send lots of motivating emails. So I'm just going to stop sharing and I can answer any questions. Let's have a look. Okay. What about when your circumstances lack of power saps your personal power, say, for example, during times of grief? So with grief, I'm not an expert on grief. I think your personal power is being able to give yourself the time that you need to grieve. Personal power is, in this example, is not making it mean, you will get your power by not making it mean anything that you are feeling like this. You're not making it mean anything. It's when you're compounding the fact that what's wrong with me? Why do I feel like this? I should be over this by now. It's not okay. That is when you're allowing your personal power to take away. I hope that answers your question, Ruben. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions? I'm more than happy to answer. Okay, Victoria, do you have any advice for dealing with depression and anxiety? And this was a big blocker for achieving my goal. So the first thing I would do is understand what are your goals, okay? You're really welcome, everyone. Thank you so much. Get really, really clear on what your goals are and how much can you do? And remember what I was saying about what James Clear said. How much can you do in a day when you are feeling depressed and anxious? And set up your goals for, oh, it's the Q&A off. It should be back on. Daniel, do you think you could turn it back on? I'm fine. You can do it in the webinar chat or in the Q&A. I think it's on because it does seem to work. So sorry, Victoria, I would see how much can you get done when you're feeling down and when you're feeling depressed? What can you do to in when you're feeling at your lowest, what's the minimum you can do? And set your goals around that, and find someone who you can talk to. I'm not a depression or anxiety expert. Find someone who you can talk to and get some help around that, and see what you can do on the small days. If it's one thing, it could even be just changing your thought. Thank you for the talk. It's really interesting. I was curious to know if there are any dark sides to goal setting. For me, I would say people set up their goals and then they set themselves up for failure by not having a clear template on how to go about them. If it's not something you really want, then don't set it. Goals are there for you, something for you to aim for. Not everyone has to have goals. Your goal could be to make your word law. That could be a goal. Your goal could be to never complain. I did that for 100 days. Instead of complaining, I wrote it all down. I mean, I used a lot of notebooks, but your goals could be anything. So I don't think they're the dark side to goal setting. I can think if you're using it to as a kind of to put yourself down, like, oh, there's another goal I didn't achieve, then just don't set them. How do you manage when personal power is genuinely being taken, i.e. buttons are being clicked by big corporation governments and it impacts the goals of a team? So this is where you really have to step into your personal power. So is there anything you can do about the government or the big corporations? If there is, then do it. But if there isn't, you can obviously have opinions about it, but what is getting upset going to achieve? That's how I think about it. Like, it's that circle of control. What can you control in this situation? Because if you can't control what's happening, it's like, can you control what's happening? Yes, then don't worry about it. Can you control what's happening? No, then don't worry about it. That's personal power. And look, I've been studying this for 20 years. It does take time, practice, determination. It's not easy. How do you set goals that are linked to having a happier relationship and a family or fixing a marriage when it's not only about you? This is a beautiful question, but someone else that needs to make it work. Beautiful question. So for this, you go first. Now, you can't change anyone else. It is so hard to change yourself, let alone anyone else. So the only way that you can change your relationship is by being the change, is by being the change that you want to see in the relationship. So one of my clients came to me and her and her husband were bickering. As soon as he'd walk into the door, she was like, ugh, and he was like, ugh. And so she worked on herself and thought, how do I want to act when he walks in? I want him to say like, hi, how are you? How's your day? I wanted him to be more attentive. So when he was walking in, she was being the change, again, stepping into her personal power, the change that she wanted to see in him, and he started to change because everything is an energy. When he came in one way and she came in one way, it was like, but if his anger's up here and she's here, he's got to come here to match her. So it's being the change that you want to see. Again, none of this is easy, but it is doable, and I've seen it happen. Okay. Any advice on how to conduct yourself when you are nervous about something? You excite yourself to challenge your boss and management, such as the pay rise, and then it's a negative outcome. I have so much annoyed energy left. I'm not sure how to channel it back to good work. Okay, Georgina, beautiful question. This is where you step into your personal power. So just because they said you asked for the pay rise, great, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get it. but you asked for it. You stood up for yourself. You let them know that you wanted a pay rise. But by you then, and also you're saying it's a very negative outcome. It's a negative outcome, but are you going to let that affect how you are, how you show up for yourself, how you show up for the rest of your life? Yes, you can have annoyed energy, but then you're giving them the power to how you feel, as opposed to, I'm going to ask for a pay rise whether I get it or not. And you know what? If I don't get it, I'm sure I can go and find another job. Now, they didn't get it. For me, what I would do is sit down and say, why didn't you think that I was worth this pay rise? Is there a conversation you can have with HR? Because if you're going to keep going into work with annoyed energy, that's not going to get you a pay rise. So it's putting it to one side, brushing yourself down and saying, right, what can I do? Sit down and have a conversation with them. What gaps do you feel I need to do? What needs to be done? And if it's a deal breaker for you and you need to leave, that's what you need to do. But you are giving away, you're giving them the power of how you feel. How would you advise depression to be managed in the heat of making difficult decisions? Again, I'm not a depression expert, but in the heat of difficult decisions, again, when emotions are high, intelligence are low, wait until you are calm before you make a difficult decision. Because if you make a difficult decision when emotions are really high, you're not going to be thinking straight. So just ride out the emotion and wait, and just know that no matter what, you're going to make the right decision for yourself. Have like real trust when it comes to trust yourself. Re-relation, does this modeling the change work for kids? I feel I always end up shouting at them, brush their teeth, put your shoes on. I don't like being a shouty parent. I can so relate to this, Victoria. As I said, I've got two. Yes, it does. This modeling does work with children. So I was really shouting quite a lot at my children as well, like, this rushing in the morning and come on and let's go. And what I realized is I wasn't managing my emotions. So what I ended up doing, and I was creating so much manic energy in the morning that they were feeding off that. So what I started doing is, like, for example, just setting real timers, getting up earlier, putting down, making their clothes or lunch ready in the morning. And what I've done with my kids is say to them, just going to take a real breath because mummy really doesn't want to lose her temper right now. Or I'm just going to go and I just need 2 minutes, and I'll go and I'll lock myself in the bathroom and I'll regulate my nervous system and let them know that mummy needs to take a breath because mummy does not want to shout. I don't always get it perfect, but also have compassion for yourself. Like, it's really difficult being a parent. When do you know when it's time to quit something that is taking your power? So when do you know? So could you be a bit more specific on it? Is this quitting your job? Or I would say the best time to quit something is when you've taken your power back. Because if you quit because they've taken your power away, you have, you've given them the power. Make sure you're quitting for the right reasons. So that's what I would say. I haven't got much context for that. So, and then I think the final question, what message for such teams? I don't know if Ruben's still on the call. Can you rewrite that question? I'm not sure what you mean. What message for such teams? I think I've answered all the questions. Okay, I think that I've answered. But like I said, if anyone wants to take this work further, you can find me on Neonor, which is NEONOR. Sign up for my weekly templates. I've absolutely loved hosting this. Thank you for all your beautiful questions. It's been amazing. Thank you so much. And yeah, if you want to follow me, I'm on TikTok. I'm trying to be cool these days. Thank you so much. I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. I've got loads of advice for how to get promoted, how to get a pay rise on LinkedIn. Follow me everywhere. Thank you so much. You've all been so amazing, so interactive. Love the energy of the group. So have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, and thank you so much.